So APIs and AJAX is today's topic, and we are going to still use jQuery to do it. So what is an API? Well, when you go on a platform, it tells you right at the top here, Application Programming Interface. What this is basically, a lot of people have done a lot of things out there already. Different stats. I mean, obviously you have Google Maps, weather. So say if you're building weather into your application where, you check where the user is located, give them their weather. Why would you want to program all your own weather stuff and try to tap it and get your own weather data when weather.com, I think it's weather.com, has already done it and has an awesome interface? Just use theirs. Same thing, like the platform gives you an example of what if you want stats on sports or say cars. I'm into cars, so I want to build an application where user puts in any make, model, year, make, model, and to get all the information on that car. You've all have seen and worked with these. Kind of like this is First Hack Dallas, our hackathon. So this is our website. And so obviously we need a map to where this is located. Our first event was held here at Coding Dojo. So we have this map. And same thing, there's no point to try and make up our own map when Google has a really good map system. And this is embedded into our site where you can zoom in, zoom out, basically do all the stuff that Google Maps does. And it's pretty easy to work with. And I'm sure at some point, everyone here will probably do some of the Google Map. But the code, this is our code for this page. And if you look down here, let me just pull that up. So inside this iframe, we just specify the size of how big it is. But then here's where the API comes into play. So there's a source, just like an image source, and it links to Google Maps and tells it what kind of, takes different parameters to explain what you want, the ID of what you want, and then this last part is a key. Some APIs are open to anybody to use. Most APIs, however, require you to have a key. They don't want just anybody using their stuff. A lot of these are free. You just sign up and they'll give you a key. And the ones that require a key, you just have to put it into the URL, because when you go to their site, go to this API, it's going to check to make sure you have a valid key. If you do, it'll give you whatever information you want. Other keys are more strict. Some you have to pay for. eBay, for example, has an API. You don't have to pay for it, but they have like 6 or 7 different APIs depending what you're doing with it. Their most basic one just allows you to do a search on their site for products and display their products on your page. The more advanced ones are for like sellers, where you can make a program in your application that instantly will list an item on eBay for them. For those, eBay you don't have to pay for it, but you have to apply, and they have to approve you. And if they see you abusing their API, they can revoke your key. Some other ones, one that you guys will work with is Pokemon. And this is actually one of your assignments you're going to have, where you're going to use their API, find all the pictures, and then the second level of this assignment is to be able to click on a picture, like that one, and then display some info on the right. And this is all using Pokemon's API, and also brings into play AJAX. And I'll talk about that in just a second in more depth. So anyway, here's the Pokemon API right here, PokeAppy. Here's the page for Google Maps API, and tells you basically different ways to do it. So this embed API, this is the one that we used on the First Hack Dallas site. Another one you'll probably come into, and this is, it's good to have at least one project, say e-commerce. Stripe is a checkout API for credit cards, accepting credit cards and checkout. Probably one of the most popular ones. YouTube. There's a billion APIs out there. There are tons of them. You can actually build your own API. And by the time you're done with this next 14 weeks, you can do it pretty easily. Because all it is your backend server. You get a request for some data. and then you just return that data. And when you're building your projects, you're going to be the one using it. So like, you're going to build your front end to get some data from the back will give it to your front, you display it. The only difference with an API is you just return information in a certain format to let anybody use it however they want. That format most commonly is called JSON, which kind of looks like this. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and it should look somewhat familiar to you. It's basically an object is all that is. So you can see the curly braces, you got your keys and your values. So for this example, they're just showing you for Bulbasaur, right? ID, name, all kind of abilities, just all kinds of info about that specific Pokemon here. And then let's talk about AJAX. AJAX stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Don't worry about the XML part. You'll rarely ever use that. It's a Microsoft thing. I've never used XML. You pretty much always use JavaScript and JSON. But what that means is a portion of your site will update or get data, and it's asynchronous, meaning it'll do it without the entire site refreshing. So the example you'll see all the time is Facebook. Somebody writes a post or a comment, and it just pops up on your screen. Your page never refreshes, just that one little part pops up. So the same thing is going on right here. So if I inspect element here, so there's a lot of different tabs up here. Another one you can check out is called Network. And this shows you all the different things that the browser gets based on your application. So we'll refresh this. And if you look through the line here, so first thing it retrieved is the actual HTML file that loaded this. And then within that HTML file, I had your typical link for your style sheet. So it fetches that next. And then I had a CDN for jQuery. So it got that. Here's just statuses, just saying it got a 200. It's all good. Took 3 milliseconds. And then it starts going through my code. In my code, I go to the Pokemon API and get these things. So you can see next, it went to the Pokemon API and got some. And then in my code, I basically looped through, and got an image for each Pokemon up to 151. So then you can see through the loop as it's looping, it got the first picture, second, third, fourth, and so on. The AJAX part of it now is, so this page is completely loaded. I click on a Pokemon, and here it pops up. This page never refreshed. There was no HTTP request. There wasn't one sent anywhere, but this popped up. And if you look at the network tab here, all the original stuff went through, but the original page never reloaded. And that's basically what AJAX is. Alright, so that's the Pokemon. I won't show you the code for that because you guys can do that on your own later. I think another one that you have a assignment for, I don't know what it entails, I haven't done that one, is for Game of Thrones. Obviously, pretty big. Someone made an API for that. So let's go ahead and I'll just show you some quick examples of using it. And anytime you want to use an API, go to their website. They usually have pretty good documentation, tell you how to use it, what URL you need to use, how to access different things. Like here, this is the URL, and then you can add in some for books, characters. You know, they usually let you test it out on here so you can see what you're getting and know what you're working with. So that actually lists out the books. Alright, so let's pull up. I'm going to use my index.html from the past couple days, and I've already got that loaded up here. So let's just do this. Let's just leave our button that's there and say when we click it, we want to get some data from the Game of Thrones API. And the way that works with jQuery, use a $sign saying it's jQuery. Now this structure is a little bit different. There's no selector because this isn't something that's being selected. So that doesn't even exist in here. The event though is .get. It's saying I want to get something. The other one you'll see is post. That's when you're posting form data or something like that. Right now we're only going to deal with get. So .get is the jQuery function to get some from an API, and it takes three things. First is the URL from whatever you want to get. So here, let's just copy this URL, and paste that in here, and let's just hard code characters. Characters, and they're numbered, so there's a whole lot of characters. Let's just see who character number 256 is. So that's the first part that you need in a .get, URL. Where are you going? Second is your callback function. What are you going to do once you get whatever it is you're getting from them? So we write our function. Now, for here, you need to add something, a parameter inside of here, and you can call this anything you want. It's no different than naming a variable, because you're going to use this as the variable inside your function. So what's happening, the .get will get whatever you're telling it to get from this URL, and whatever it receives back, it's going to automatically pass it into this function. And so, whoops, did I just add an extra curly brace somewhere? No, yeah. There we go. Okay. So what am I going to do in this function? Well, let's just console log what it is that we got back. So we'll log that data. And then the third, and notice this is all within the parentheses of the .get function, is you have to actually specify what type of data that it should expect back. It's almost always going to be JSON. And so we finish that off. Let's go ahead and save that. Run this in here, refresh. Oh, let me open up my console. Oh, I'm missing something. HTML12. Do I still have an extra one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay. This structure is a little bit off. There. Let's just try to make this look a little bit easier to see. Okay. So I just put on several lines, three things. Okay, so now it's running. Let's click. And here it is. So if we just look at our network tab really quick, loaded up the HTML file, loaded up jQuery, and then when I click the button, if I click it again, we'll see it do it again. And it went to an API of Ice and Fire. And this is where it console logged it. So you notice it returned an object, and we can expand that. And we got access to all kinds of things. Aliases, which is none. Allegiances, who is this? Corwin Corbray. I don't remember who that is. So this is what you get back, and now you can do whatever you want with this stuff. Play around with it, display it, whatever. So let's make this a little bit more interactive where we're not using a console. And let's go ahead and comment that out. And let's create a form. Let's let the user decide what character they want to get. So let's just throw a simple input in here for text. Give that an ID, character, and our submit button. Oh. Value. And then what do we want to do? Do some jQuery here. And we'll just say form. We'll select our form. When it's submitted, what do we want to do? Well, first, let's grab the value from that form. So we will select the character ID input. and we want to get the value from it. And let's just go ahead and save that into a variable. Var. This is one of the hardest parts of programming, is coming up with names. It's crazy. Var someone, whatever. Just to see what it is. Choice. Yeah, it's a little shorter. We'll go with that. Okay, console log, whatever that is. Let's just make sure this is working so far. Refresh. Here's our form. Throw in a number. Oh, it flashed up there. Because it's a form, it's submitted. So, we'll deal with that in just a little bit. Alright, so we know we're getting that. So, what do we want to do? We want to choose certain characters. So, we are going to go ahead and now do our API call. And it's going to go to, oh good, I still had it saved. And this time I'll go ahead and hard code the characters part, slash. But this time, we're letting the user choose the character, so I'm just going to concatenate on whatever that choice is. Alright, so that's the first part. Second part is our callback function. That's going to expect some data back. And again, you can call this anything you want, result, whatever. What are we going to do with that? Well, let's just console log it. You'll see this in the future. It's good to do console log things to see what you're getting back and what you're working with, in case there's a bug, an error, or you just don't really know what you're getting back. So let's just log that, and then last is what type of object we're getting, which is JSON. Okay, and let's just make sure this works first. So if we refresh this, type in the character number. Okay, let's go ahead and let's do our return false. So at the end of this submit function, submit function. Okay, we're going to return false. This is key to make AJAX work when you deal with forms, because otherwise it refreshes the page, and that's no longer AJAX. All right, so let's try this. Refresh character 66, and there it is. So that's where we console logged the choice, and this is where we console logged what we got back. And this is Alanis Harlaw, Ironborn from Pike. So we're getting what we want back, but we don't want to just console log it. Why don't we actually display it? So we still have our container. So let's just go ahead and select our container. And we will just append. Let's just append in H2, do an H2 tag. And we're going to use, well, let's find out. Let's just display their name. So since I logged it, I can see what we're getting back. And here's the name. So this is the entire object. This object can be referred to by whatever variable name you named it, which in this case, I named it result. So that's how I access the object. And I want to access the name, which is a key of that object. So I will just put in H2 here, result.name, and add on my closing tag. So if this works, the name should be appended in my container. Refresh this. Let's see who the 12th character is. Balon Greyjoy. So we can just keep doing this, check various character names. We're just appending, so it's just adding to it. But at no time, go in network, and no time are we refreshing or reloading the page. And that is the AJAX part of it. That's pretty much the basics of everything. Obviously, some APIs have pictures, which is how I got the Pokemon one, to have all the images. Yeah, so you can do all kinds of things. And that's going to be it for that. Let me go ahead and stop this. Any questions?